You're watching another Nerd Stalker interview. Okay, we're live. Welcome to another Nerd Stalker interview, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Greg Blurry, aka Social Greg on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. Today, we'll again speak with Rion Martin, the director of marketing at Infegy. Infegy is a social intelligence company, and we'll be diving into a report they released just recently called the Top 50 Most Popular Brands Using Their Technology. So, anyway, good afternoon, Rion, and welcome to Nerd Stalker Live again from Kansas City, right?
Yeah, that's right, Greg. Thanks for having me back. Excited to be here and talk about this.
Oh no, this is big because, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll let you talk more about that. But Rion has been on our channel before, and we introduced News Ninja, which is again another product they released that is free, but it talks about the conversations online and how what are the most popular conversations with News Ninja. And today we'll talk about the rankings of the top 50 most popular brands online. And anyway, you might want to talk a little bit about that background on how your social intelligence comes up with this list.
Sure. So we've been doing this for quite a while. It's always been pretty well received, but recently we just kind of did a reboot. What the top 50 brands dashboard is doing is it's tracking mentions of more than 800 big consumer-facing brands across the entire social web. So whether that's Twitter or Reddit or forums or blogs or even reviews, it's looking at how often people are actually talking about these brands and then ranking them. And the ranking here is not just volume, but it's also how positively people talk about these brands. So we call that sentiment, but it's looking at overall when people talk, how favorable are they about this brand? And then we go a little bit deeper. So we say, what's the gender distribution? Who's talking about the brand? Or more women talking about it?
Let me share the screen for everyone. Yeah. You can talk on top of that, and it'll be kind of cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's the ranking ladder on the side actually is kind of cool. I look at it as a dramatic view of what's happening with the brands because these brands are always rising and falling except for maybe the top few or three like Google. But you'll see new entrants month to month, and you'll see all of these different interplays. So MTV's up this month because of the VMAs, but you have a few others that make the list for the first time, like MetLife, who got a shout out from One Direction, and for the first time ever, they were a top 50 brand since we've been doing this. But this whole dashboard is just looking at all these various metrics on these brands that people are talking about most.
Well, let's go into one, and you could talk about the inner dashboard of one of them. Let's go to the top one. For August 2015, Google. And look what you guys have here, a week conversation volume. Wow.
Yeah, it's going week over week. And of course, with different numbers of days in each month, this always ends up looking more than just 4 bars. But if you look down below, you can actually see a lot of the topics people are talking about. So for Google, it's not so much anymore that, when people talk, they're just talking about Googling something or using it as a search engine. Android has really become the thing that people associate with Google most often online. But then you can look across all these other various topics and look at what else people are saying. But as you look in this, you're seeing a ton of conversations about Android, about phones, about smartphones, about devices, about what's coming out in 2015, about apps. And if you go down below, you can also look at the sentiment of Google compared to other brands on this top 50 list, and the gender distribution. So this is a really interesting way to look at it. You can scroll through this and look and see right away, which conversations are male dominated, which conversations are female dominated. And then you can also look at which brands are most positively talked about and most negatively talked about right here in this view. So you can benchmark right away Google compared to other competitors.
Wow.
Other brands.
This is so awesome because we were talking offline, and I've been in marketing for a while, and we used to subscribe at the big company to reports, right? You know, and
Right.
you know, a lot of them would be Nielsen if you're in the more of the commercial space, you know, consumer space. You would go to, you know, other sources to get, you know, your data and about your brand, and you'd have to pay a fairly big amount actually for these reports. You know, they'll give you the summary, but you know, for free as a teaser. But if you wanted the dirty details, you know, of the Nielsen report, you know, you got to pay for this. But this is so interesting because this is really talking about real time, right?
Well, this isn't quite real time, but it's looking back over a whole months of data, which for this ends up being a ton. So here it's
Mm.
saying 35 million conversations about Google in August alone. We're crunching all of this data for more than 800 brands and pumping this out on a monthly basis. So at the end of every month, we're pushing this through, and you know, in under an hour, it's delivering all these stats and all this information
Wow.
of
Wow.
over 800 brands. But to your point, we are going to be doing some real-time stuff. For instance, we have some real-time dashboards planned for the political debates that will look at the conversations in real time across multiple candidates and all of their policies that they're talking about to get consumer feedback or public opinion data on these, I guess you could call them political brands, but candidates in real time to see, you know, how people are reacting when Trump says something up on the podium or when, you know, Jeb Bush goes in and says something. But this is really our specialty, and all of this is really the tip of the iceberg, which is why we make it available for free, because there's so much deeper contextual analysis that our software actually performs that for us to put this stuff out there, it's not really downplaying the significance of anything we do. It's just highlighting at a very high level some of the things that we're able to get out of text data,
Wow.
social in particular for here.
You know, this is cool. I was talking to you offline that I've never seen anything like this dashboard before because, you know, it would be like in chunks, like, okay, maybe it's Twitter and Facebook and a couple of other ones, but it isn't like aggregate of like, you were even telling me offline that you were using even boards like, you know, not boards, but I mean, that's what we call them is Reddit, like Reddit, right? And other sources like that online, right?
Right, yeah, we are collecting from and analyzing as much of the social web as we can. Of course, now Facebook has walled everything off, but we had Facebook data for a long time too. So we try to look at the entire ecosystem. When you look at specific channels, it's really interesting if you do an audience analysis of these specific channels. Twitter is much more liberal than a network, say, like Pinterest. Pinterest is found to be made up a lot of people who have more conservative views, who would probably affiliate more with the Republican Party. So if you focus on just one channel, you're getting one subset of consumer opinion. And what we're trying to do for brands and our clients is bring in and say, we want to know what the general public is saying. But then on top of that, with our software, we segment out individual subgroups like moms or coffee enthusiasts or fitness enthusiasts or environmentalists, to understand specific groups within that subsection, but specific groups across channels. The argument being, you know, if you look at just that one channel, as I mentioned, it's going to have some channel bias in there. And the way we try and get around that to paint a bigger, clearer picture of consumers for brands is by trying to look at all of it.
Well, and we couldn't do this years ago. I mean, this is so cutting edge and new, you know, I mean, the ability to actually look at this, you know, holistically of all the online stuff. That's the incredible part. But you know, well, let's dig into the report a little bit.
Sure.
I had some questions about it. You know, your report also reveals the power of celebrities around conversations around the brand, right?
Absolutely, especially in August, that was probably the most notable driver in a lot of the brands that increased in rank and improved their standing was attachment to celebrity. It's actually really fascinating to watch this, not just as, okay, here's some stats, but to look at the drama of it, right? Ferrari, I think, jumped 16 places because Kylie Jenner got a Ferrari for her birthday. Oh, and on top of that, Christian Bale was announced to play Enzo Ferrari in a movie. And then, you know, there was some more stuff that went on. But celebrities being able to drive these conversations for big brands and to actually see how that's impacting social or public opinion and attention and mind share is really fascinating.
Yeah, and I think recently, I think I saw HuffPo use like not just the general celebrities, but celebrities that are like channel specific, like Vine or Pinterest or something like that. I mean, someone who's driving conversation on a specific channel. That is interesting in my mind too. So now also, let's talk about new products. Apple had a launch last week. We don't have the September data, but I'm pretty sure Apple's gonna climb in conversation over some of the other brands because of their announcements they had last week, right?
Traditionally, they always do. And last week was a big announcement, and they did a really good job on it. I felt, at least compared to the Apple Music announcement, which was not Apple's best. I fully expect that we're going to see a lot of conversations, particularly around the fact that this time, instead of just saying, "Oh, we made the iPhone faster," mic drop, that's it, right? They really actually introduced whole new features and hardware upgrades in these phones, and then all the attention around the watch, and then several people in our office now want one of those iPads with that stylus. I mean, there were so many amazing announcements that it's gonna have an impact.
I mean, yeah, it was so funny because the announcement across the board went from the serious hardcore Apple fanboys, they call them, right?
Right.
To the naysayers to say, well, hey, Steve Jobs said, who would you ever use a stylus?
Right.
But from a PR marketing standpoint, it's all good because it's conversation about you, right? If no one's having a conversation about you, it's probably a bad thing, Let's go into also, let's talk a little bit more about the demographics information and showcasing the difference between the brands in terms of men and women, what they discuss most. Can you comment a little bit about that?
Sure. So I talked about my personal favorite thing about this is the drama. You can see certain brands be heavily impacted when they make announcements that rub a certain demographic the wrong way, right? So on this, we could see certain times where maybe a brand has released a campaign that there was backlash and said it was sexist. And you can look month to month and see how that gender changed. So maybe women only made up 20% of the conversation before, and then it skyrockets to 40. It doubles because of the impact of what was being said. Then you can also look in that topic cloud, and while it's not color-coded to gender, currently that's something that our platform does, but we didn't put in this. You can look at, okay, what are the topics that brought more women into the fold on this conversation? What are the negative things people are talking about? Because it highlights it in red if it's negative. So you can really get a quick contextual overview of the landscape of that brand just based on all this. And gender is a big one you can look at month to month to see, oh, wow, there was a huge upswing in male participation or female participation. Why? And what does it mean for the brand?
Well, can you go into there was that sentiment column, and you talked a little bit about that in terms of how it's designed, but like if the line is longer amongst the men in sentiment versus the women, what can you infer with that?
Well, a great example is going to be on the political dashboard we have, right? So we've broken this out on this dashboard into share of voice for women compared to share of voice for men, and also sentiment for women and sentiment for men. And we saw, so I was just looking at this. This is a great example. It's pretty relevant to what we're talking about now. I pulled up Trump, right? His individual scorecard that we're looking at. Absolutely. Men were talking about, so 83% of the conversation was driven by men, and they were 83% positive in what they were saying about it. Now, when you looked at women, they made up a much smaller portion of the conversation, but that dropped by, I think, 17 points. They were hovering, in the 50% favorability range. So meaning that there were almost more comments that were negative about Trump than positive. But for the men, it was overwhelmingly positive. So this becomes really interesting because there are differences of opinion across gender. And I think as we go forward, we're going to move more to psychographic segments rather than the traditional demographic in terms of male, female, age group, ethnicity, these things, as we go more interest-based. But for now, there's still these interesting interplays that you can infer from this, particularly if you look more on a topic level, which once again, we provide the high level with these dashboards, and then our actual software that brands purchase, they can actually go in and look at this and do deeper analysis on, what really is driving the negative sentiment among men for topic X and the positive for women for topic Y.
Gosh, that is so cool. I mean, just so cool that you have the ability to look at this stuff in that way. I mean, oh man. Well, anyway, I think you have a lot to get ready for that debate tonight, so I'm going to let you get going. But you want to talk anything more about about what you're doing with this dashboard? This is going to be a monthly release, right? And you could subscribe to this, right?
Right. So it's a monthly release right now, and data goes back all the way to 2009. So you showed a screenshot earlier, you hit the drop down. You can check this out from 2009 to today, and it will continue to update each month. And like I said, the exciting part is looking at the drama, seeing all that happened. NASA continues to be on this top 50 brands, and that was so surprising. But in July, when they did the Pluto flyby and all the pictures, the internet went nuts. I mean, people love NASA. And you can see all these different, okay, who has 15 minutes and who has staying power. You can watch this happen month to month, right? So MetLife will not be on this dashboard next month, I guarantee it. But somebody new will probably take their place. And then you'll have a few others. And we'll be able to see why and, what topics were driving that. And it's just really interesting to watch month to month. And it's a great resource for content creators, people looking for stuff to write about. They can go check this out. Journalists, they can look at it if they need quick social stats. It has such broad levels of use and interest that we're just excited to have it out there and to have people checking it out. But that's really the core focus of it. And we'd love you to check it out, to share it, top50.infegy.com. And once again, if you dig it or if you think we can add anything to it, we are always loving that conversation. So reach out.
That's great. No, I appreciate your time here. And also, check out News Ninja. They just came out with that service. It's free again as well. And that talks about the conversations that are happening, online that you won't find on HuffPo or any of the other ones. It's actually conversations that are driven by you guys, the social network out there. So check them out. So anyway, thank you again, Rion. I appreciate that. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, Greg. Good talking to you again.
Yeah, that was Rion Martin of Infegy, providing the world with social intelligence tools, and also the creator of News Ninja, we just talked about, and summarizing the top 50 brands on a monthly basis for you. So thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Greg Valoria, aka Social Greg on Twitter, for the Nerd Stalker Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful out there. Hey, thanks again, Rion. Look to see you on the debates tonight.
Great. Have a good one, Greg.
All right.